Malone.
Good evening. As Chief Superintendent Perron mentioned in his opening remarks, it is impossible to talk about the drug situation in Canada without also discussing organized crime. Le crime organisé domine tous les échelons de commerce sur la drogue.
Organized crime dominates all levels of the drug trade, from importation to production and onto the street through networks of street gangs and low-level drug dealers. These groups become involved in this type of criminal activity because it is very lucrative and they can generate vast sums of criminal proceeds.
This will not have a direct impact on how the RCMP investigates criminals and/or criminal organizations. The approach taken by the RCMP is that it does not investigate or pursue suspected criminals based on the prescribed sentences outlined in the criminal code. It is based on a careful assessment of those groups that pose the greatest threat to public safety within the communities we serve. Notwithstanding this, we do, however, welcome any legislative tools that will support and contribute to enhancing healthy, strong, and safe communities. The RCMP believes in a balanced approach to the issue of substance abuse in Canada, consisting of prevention, education, enforcement, counseling, treatment, rehabilitation, and, where appropriate, alternative measures and diversion to counter Canada's drug problems. I would posit that the debate concerning the effectiveness of mandatory minimum penalties as a deterrent to crime should be left to government officials, legal experts, academics, and other individuals with the requisite expertise to make this assessment. However, I would like to take this opportunity to draw your attention to some additional areas where legislation could be improved to enhance law enforcement's ability to pursue organized criminal groups. The first is the listing of criminal organizations. A criminal listing process would assist and complement the proposed legislative amendments set out in this Bill C-15. As an example, trafficking and other offenses being committed on behalf of criminal organizations. This process would facilitate law enforcement's ability to prove that a particular individual was part of a criminal enterprise and engaged in drug trafficking activities on behalf of the organization, which would then subject him or her to the provisions of the proposed legislation. The current legislation requires that criminal organizations must be proven to be a criminal enterprise each and every time these penalties are pursued, thus limiting the potential impact of the proposed legislation. Parallel legislation allowing for the listing of organized crime groups should complement the proposed revision of Bill C-15 in this new legislation is to have its intended effect. Therefore, the RCMP supports the listing of criminal organizations as it would increase our efficiency in the fight against organized crime and contribute to building safer communities. En deuxième lieu, j'aimerais parler d'accès légal.
The second item that I would like to raise is lawful access. A colleague of mine recently stated that the objectives of justice shouldn't be defeated by advancements in technology if everybody understands and signs off on the fact that the processes that permit authorizations of the state to eavesdrop or intercept are properly governed. Communications technology today has rapidly evolved, and criminals are embracing and taking advantage of the benefits that this technology provides, such as anonymity and encryption. Despite these advances, Canadian law has not kept pace with the changing technology. These increasingly complex technologies are challenging our current conventional methods of lawfully accessing the information that we need to bring these criminal organizations before the courts. This needs to change in order to enhance our investigative effectiveness.
Law enforcement is disclosure. Disclosure in Canada has become an onerous and burdensome exercise in many criminal cases. This requirement has had an ever-increasing impact on the costs and the progress of investigations and prosecutions. As the investigation of criminal organizations has become increasingly complex, the requirements for the purposes of disclosure have also become a huge challenge. Consequently, this affects our capacity to investigate other criminal organizations in an expeditious and timely manner. Furthermore, the volume of disclosure has affected the capacity of law enforcement and prosecutors to attack organized crime as an offense in and of itself. In many instances, prosecutions for substantive offenses are preferred over organized crime charges. There is a need to establish a well-defined and consistent threshold for relevant disclosure. This could be accomplished through enacting disclosure requirements and procedures and enshrining them in legislation. An example of how expanding disclosure can affect an investigation was during a recent investigation of a major organized crime group where 1.7 million pieces of communication were intercepted. Of those, 27,000 required to be transcribed, but at the end of the day, there was only 200 that were deemed sufficiently relevant and used in court. This exercise expended a significant amount of resources, both human and financial. The last item that I would like to mention is the scheduling of certain chemical precursors used for the production of controlled substances. As Chief Superintendent Perron pointed out earlier, Canada has been identified as an export nation for synthetic drugs, namely methamphetamine and ecstasy. Under the Controlled Drugs and Substances Act, it is only an offense to import-export these chemical precursors, while offenses such as possession for the purpose of production and trafficking are found in precursor control regulations. However, there are no offenses for possession of chemical precursors or lab equipment such as pill presses. Finally, I would like to note that the RCMP supports the portion of the bill, C-15, that addresses the move of amphetamines, GHB, and Rohypnol from Schedule 3 to Schedule 1 in the CDSA. Pour conclure, reconnaissant qu'il faut travailler de manière intégrée pour être mieux en mesure.
In conclusion, to successfully address the drug issue in Canada, we must work in an integrated manner to enhance our ability to target organized crime. I hope that our presentation here this afternoon and this evening has served as a good overview of the drug situation in Canada, while also highlighting some of the challenges that are faced by the law enforcement community on a day-to-day basis. Thank you.